Deep beneath the surface of our planet lies a world that almost no human will ever see. A world colder, darker, and more unforgiving than outer space. A world where one mistake, a single miscalculation, means instant death. And it is in this world, the deep ocean, that one of humanity's most horrifying tragedies unfolded.
The ocean.
A tragedy so severe that governments scrambled to bury details. Families were left with haunting, unanswered questions, and survivors, the few who knew what really happened, carried nightmares they never dared to speak aloud. This is the story of the worst submarine disaster in history. A disaster that didn't start in the moment the vessel was lost. It began long before that, with politics, pressure, engineering shortcuts, and a chain of decisions that formed a ticking time bomb. Picture this: a massive steel tube longer than a football field, packed with torpedoes, nuclear reactors, and over 100 sailors. They are trapped inside, separated from the crushing weight of the ocean by just a few inches of metal. The slightest breach means the sea will rip through the submarine at over 1,000 miles per hour, reducing the entire crew to nothing in a fraction of a second. This is the terrifying reality they lived with every day. The submarine at the center of this tragedy, once hailed as one of the most advanced of its era, was meant to symbolize national pride and cutting-edge naval engineering. But deep inside, behind the polished propaganda were faults, hidden flaws, mechanical problems, poor maintenance, and layers of bureaucracy that ignored warnings until it was too late. On the day of the disaster, everything seemed normal. The crew joked, cooked, cleaned, ran drills, prepared the torpedo systems, monitored pressure levels, the usual rhythm of life underwater. They had no idea that within hours they would be fighting for their lives. They didn't know that a catastrophic technical failure was already brewing inside one of the torpedo tubes. A failure that would unleash a chain of explosions so violent it would be detected by seismic stations hundreds of miles away. Inside the submarine, temperatures near the torpedo compartment had risen unusually high. Crew members noticed unusual odors, the smell of overheated fuel. Someone reported strange readings. But the culture aboard the vessel did not allow junior crew to challenge senior officers. Pride, discipline, and fear of punishment overpowered common sense. Minutes later, the first explosion tore through the submarine. Imagine a screaming burst of fire racing through tight hallways, fuel igniting, metal ripping apart, lights shattering, oxygen turning instantly into deadly, toxic smoke. Men in the forward compartment were killed instantly. Others further back felt the submarine shake violently, their ears popping from the pressure wave. The submarine tried to surface, but the damage was too severe. Water rushed into the forward compartments. The entire vessel began to tilt downward. And then, a second explosion, far stronger than the first, thundered through the ocean, heard by nearby ships, satellites, and seismic sensors. The power of that second blast sealed their fate. The submarine sank rapidly, spiraling downward into the dark abyss. Imagine being inside, alarms blaring, lights flickering, freezing water filling rooms, crew scrambling toward emergency bulkhead hatches, desperately trying to seal off compartments. Some succeeded, some didn't. The screams, the crash in metal, the cracking sounds of the hull bending under pressure. It was chaos beyond imagination. When the submarine finally hit the ocean floor, miles below the surface, only a few compartments remained unflooded. Inside those steel tombs, survivors huddled in pitch-black darkness. No fresh air, no power, no heat. Their oxygen candles, chemical devices meant to produce breathable air, were limited. Every minute, oxygen dropped. Carbon dioxide rose, and the temperature continued to fall. The men wrote notes to their families in pure darkness. One note, later recovered, chillingly read, "We're waiting. No one is coming." Above the surface, the Navy struggled to understand what had happened. They tried to contact the submarine, no response. Rescue vessels were scrambled, but they didn't know the sub's exact location. Critical hours passed, then days, and the brutal truth settled in. By the time rescuers reached the wreck, no one was alive. When divers finally saw the submarine lying broken on the ocean floor, they realized the brutality of what had happened. The pressure hull was torn apart, compartments were twisted like crushed soda cans. Some bodies had been instantly obliterated by the pressure. Others were found in the aft compartments, where they had survived the longest, suffering slowly in cold darkness for hours, maybe days, hoping for rescue. But the horror didn't end there. Investigators discovered that the disaster could have been prevented. Warnings had been ignored. Faulty torpedoes had a known history of leaking fuel that could ignite. Maintenance logs were incomplete. Budget cuts had delayed critical repairs. Officers were pressured to meet unrealistic deadlines for naval exercises, pushing the submarine to sea before it was truly ready. The truth was devastating. This wasn't just an accident. It was the result of human arrogance and political pressure. Families demanded answers. Many were given lies. Some were told the submarine sank instantly, even though evidence showed that several crew members survived for hours. Governments fought to control the narrative, hiding engineering flaws, blaming the crew, blaming foreign powers, anything to avoid taking responsibility. The wreck itself became a symbol of national disgrace, a reminder of how quickly pride can turn into tragedy, and how the ocean, silent, merciless, eternal, does not forgive human mistakes. Even after the official report was released, experts still questioned parts of the story. Some believed multiple torpedoes exploded, not just one. Others suspected the submarine struck an underwater obstacle. A few believed there might have been a collision with another vessel. But one thing was certain. The submarine was lost because of a deadly mix of flawed engineering, explosive fuel instability, and a refusal to acknowledge danger until it was too late. Today, the wreck remains at the bottom of the sea. Cold, dark, silent. A steel coffin holding the remains of brave sailors who trusted their leaders, their machines, and their training, only to be betrayed by failure at the highest levels. And every year memorials are held to honor them. Loved ones lay flowers, veterans salute. The Navy speaks of sacrifice, duty, and courage. But the full truth, every ugly detail, will likely never be told. Because the real story of the worst submarine disaster in history is not just about explosions, mechanical failures, or sinking steel. It is about human decisions, the choices made in boardrooms, naval offices, and engineering labs, long before the submarine ever touched the water. It is about what happens when warnings are ignored, when pride outweighs safety, and when governments hide the truth to protect reputations instead of people. The ocean never forgets, and neither should we. This disaster stands as a permanent reminder that the deep sea is a place where mistakes are paid in lives. A place where even the strongest steel can fail. A place that shows no mercy, no matter how advanced the technology or how powerful the nation behind it. And somewhere in the cold darkness, that submarine still lies, a silent witness to the moment everything went wrong, and to the men who never came home.